The 7 largest economies in the world, will today officially back the Prime Minister's Build Back Better for the World plan financing for vital infrastructure, from railways in Africa to wind farms in Asia. The move is aimed at pushing the green agenda around the world but also providing countries with an alternative to Chinese investment through Beijing's controversial Belt and Road Initiative (BRI). A spokesman for the Prime Minister said, "This project stands on its own merits and is in line with the G7's priorities on ensuring the world builds back better and greener from the pandemic. It is designed to ensure developing countries have a choice in finding support from fair-minded countries in line with democratic principles." It comes as the leaders of the UK, US, Japan, Italy, Germany, France and Canada along with EU presidents have discussed opening an investigation into China's role in the origins of the coronavirus and used slave labour. While the final communiqué will not be as tough as Britain and the US had hoped, the agreement on infrastructure for Africa represents a first major step in tackling the threat from Beijing. Speaking to Channel 4 yesterday, Mr. Johnson said, "I think they will see that the world is back, the West, democratic, liberal world is back. This was a summit that really did need to happen." A senior EU official also noted that the summit had proved the importance of the G7 as an agenda-setting group. The new plan is intended to give developing countries access to more, better and faster finance, while accelerating the global shift to renewable energy and sustainable technology. The government will build on this with other countries ahead of the COP26 summit in November. Experts have told the Sunday Express that the need to take on China is paramount, with its BRI program buying it influence in African countries with essential resources needed for future green products such as wind farms and electric cars. Former diplomat and China expert Matthew Henderson said, "BRI was mis-sold to the world as a benign, egalitarian, win-win alternative to aggressive US-led capitalism. But China has used BRI as a scheme to weaponize its wealth for no other strategic goal than to promote the Chinese Communist Party's (CCP) economic, political and military hegemony across the globe. Much of the infrastructure built under BRI simply creates better market access for China and builds debt dependencies in hapless client states, whose corrupt governments end up coerced into buying China's Orwellian AI networks under the guise of building 5G, and so lose control of all their most sensitive data." James Rogers of the geostrategy think tank added, "Our emergence as an economic power in the 19th century was connected to our construction of the world's infrastructure, from the Suez Canal to railways in India and Argentina and telegraph system. China has been building up its own infrastructure, it now has more high-speed rail networks than the rest of the world put together. These were the BRI's center point spanning out beyond its borders into Eurasia, Russia, Southeast Asia and into Europe." The Prime Minister has also launched the UK's Blue Planet Fund from the G7 summit's oceanside setting in Cornwall. The £500 million fund will support countries including Ghana, Indonesia and Pacific Island states to tackle unsustainable fishing, protect and restore coastal ecosystems like mangroves and coral reefs, and reduce marine pollution. The G7 will endorse a nature compact at this afternoon's meeting to halt and reverse biodiversity loss by 2030, including supporting the global target to conserve or protect at least 30% of land and 30% of ocean globally by the end of the decade. Mr. Johnson said, "Protecting our planet is the most important thing we as leaders can do for our people. There is a direct relationship between reducing emissions, restoring nature, creating jobs and ensuring long-term economic growth. As democratic nations we have a responsibility to help developing countries reap the benefits of clean growth through a fair and transparent system. The G7 has an unprecedented opportunity to drive a global green industrial revolution, with the potential to transform the way we live." The G7 are also expected to commit to almost halve their emissions by 2030 relative to 2010. The UK is already going even further, pledging to cut emissions by at least 68% by 2030 on 1990 levels, 58% reduction on 2010 levels. Leaders will set out the action they will take to slash carbon emissions, including measures like ending all unabated coal as soon as possible, ending almost all direct government support for the fossil fuel energy sector overseas and phasing out petrol and diesel cars. Sir David Attenborough, renowned British environmentalist, broadcaster and the UK's COP26 People's Champion, will address the leaders of the G7 countries plus guests Australia, India, South Korea and South Africa at a session on climate and nature later today and urge them to take action as the world's leading economies to secure the future of our planet. He said, "The natural world today is greatly diminished. That is undeniable. Our climate is warming fast. That is beyond doubt. Our societies and nations are unequal and that is sadly plain to see. But the question science forces us to address specifically in 2021 is whether as a result of these intertwined facts we are on the verge of destabilizing the entire planet. If that is so, then the decisions we make this decade, in particular the decisions made by the most economically advanced nations, are the most important in human history." In addition to taking action at home, G7 leaders will commit to increase their contributions to international climate finance to meet the target of mobilizing $100 billion a year, which will help developing countries deal with the impacts of climate change and support sustainable, green growth. This is the first ever net zero G7, with all countries having committed to reach net zero emissions by 2050 at the latest with ambitious reductions targets in the 2020s. The Leaders' Summit is an important stepping stone on the road to COP26, which the UK will host in Glasgow in November.